Hello, everyone. It's been a while, but I wanted to update my tutorial video for setting up Beyond Chaos because things are different enough now that it's been requested that I do so, and I'm happy to do that. So we'll go over the details of it all. This tutorial will cover both the relatively new graphical user interface, the GUI, as well as the tried and true console version that some people may still be using for whatever reason. Maybe they're not on Windows or something, that's totally fine. So we will be covering both of those in this tutorial video. The first thing I want to cover is what is Beyond Chaos Community Edition, BCCE, and how is it different? What is justifying this new updated tutorial video? And basically, the name change is a reflection of how it's being developed now. Previously, the first versions of it were developed by Abyssnim, and then Beyond Chaos EX mode was then developed by Subtraction Soup, and now we're in Beyond Chaos Character Edition, or Community Edition, which is currently led by Dark/88 and supported by a whole host of talented programmers that are all making excellent contributions to the randomizer. And it is this change that has sort of prompted this name change for hopefully the last time, because it's a more scalable solution for that. It doesn't matter if the leader of the project changes, there's still access to this, and this is a more recognized group effort. So moving forward, this should, fingers crossed, be the last version name of Beyond Chaos moving forward. That being said, most of the changes are not in tandem with the name change. They're not by and because of the name change. They are just a consequence of all the various new features and optimizations that we have made for the randomizer. And that's part of what we'll be showing off today. Um, so first things first, if you're in the Discord, the Beyond Chaos Barracks, the Discord that we uh, are sort of centralized in, the announcements in the welcome channel have links to this page here that has the most recent version on it. If you are not, I will be putting a link to the latest version in the description below. That way it will be a self-sustaining video in that regard. Once you have that, you can probably download beyondchaos.zip here, the first option. There's a changelog if you're interested. And for power users that may prefer to customize things a little bit more heavily and get into the nitty gritty of the randomizer, there are source code options for you here. But if you're a new user, if you're not sure what's going on with this is probably the option that you want, the first one. I've already downloaded that. That's this file here. I just did it in advance because it takes a bit on this internet connection. And I will show the first time setup for this. I'll extract this to its own folder. Here it is. Enter it. Now you'll see that there isn't much here, but once we run it, it will generate some more things. So run it for the first time. I will be running the GUI first, but there will be pop-ups for this. This is the first time setup, so just hit OK on this. You'll be looking at the config window here, which you might not be able to see the whole thing of. Because this is first time setup, it doesn't have a lot of the different resources that are external to Final Fantasy VI. There are a lot of things that you can change in the game itself, but things like character sprites and new music tracks and whatnot, those are obviously not with the original SNES ROM that you played 25 years ago, roughly. So these are all hosted on the websites and like on the internet. And so I'll put in a Y here, Y for yes. I will be downloading all of these. I won't actually be using any of them, but I'll just show you. If you're interested in these things, you can use Y. You can also use N if you're not interested in these things, but I will be using Y for yes. This is what Y stands for. And now we'll just let this run through its process. It'll do whatever it needs to do. Downloading the new character sprites that have been made, the new monster sprites that have been ported over. And this will take some time, especially if your internet connection is as poor as mine is at some time. And here is the GUI itself. So that may take a while, but it is only for the first time setup and for any subsequent updates. But here's the randomizer itself. So the version number is listed up here in the header. This current version, which is the most recent version at this point in time, is 4.1.2. If you're watching this in the future, this number may be different. It may be larger. It will hopefully be larger. It will hopefully not be smaller because we are not moving backwards. But if it is larger, that's not an issue. You can check for updates within the randomizer itself. I will not be doing this right now because I literally just updated it. You all saw it. The evidence is there. Now, to actually get started with the randomizer, most of this stuff is fairly basic if you're familiar with randomizers in general. If you're not, this may be rather novel, so let's go through it. First, this stuff in the sort of top pane here is sort of administrative stuff based on what ROM you're using. I will choose a ROM. I did not put a ROM in this folder, so I will quickly do that. Just so that I have a reference to work with. So we can hit browse. I put the ROM here. I can probably move it in there, just where everything else is. And I can select this ROM. Your ROM should be an SMC or SFC file. It's not an SRM file. That may be a save file that you have with the ROM. It should be one of these two file extensions. If you don't have file extensions enabled, you may wish to do that. I can't remember how to do that, so you can Google that easily enough, though. So I will open that. It will place it there. It automatically fills in an output directory, which is the same directory that you have sourced the ROM from. You can choose a different output directory if you so choose, but if you do not, then that is what it will default to, and that's fine. The seed number is optional. You don't need a seed number. A seed number doesn't actually help in most situations. The purpose of a seed number is if you wish to play the exact same ROM as someone else. Maybe you're playing it as a race, a head-to-head race or something. Maybe you're playing it just together to share the experience, whatever that may be. If you're playing it solo, you don't really need a seed number for anything. If you wish to generate more than one seed, maybe you plan on going through them rapid fire, such as on stream or something. Maybe you're planning on using a BizHawk shuffler. If you're not familiar with that, don't even worry about it. You can select the number of seeds to generate from 1 up to anything reasonably large, unnecessarily large even. I will stick with 1. I probably will not generate a seed, but that is fine. That's it for the administrative stuff for now. Next is the game mode. We have several different game modes. I won't be going through all the flag details and mode details very much because there are a lot of them. It's outside the scope of this video. It would take a while. So there's plenty of documentation on it. If you're curious, you can always ask questions in the Discord or in the comments section below. That's totally fine. I will answer them if they're good questions and not trolling. You can choose whichever mode you want. Normal mode is probably what you will be seeing most frequently if you were introduced to this via Twitch. These ones are more for racing and for various different and generally wackier modes. We also have presets, flag presets. If you are starting out, you may wish to choose the new player for preset. It's up to you whether you do or not. This flag set is relatively conservative with its changes, and it's relatively easy compared to what Beyond Chaos can output. If that's not really something that you care about and you just want to build your own flag set, go ahead. These flag sets are decent enough, but most users tend to build their own. And so I will also be building my own at some point, and I will be showing how to save it. It's a very simple process. You can save your own flag sets, and then they will appear in this drop-down. We'll get to that. As for the flags themselves, They're divided into several different categories, which are represented by these tabs here. The first one is the basic flags. They're the bread and butter options. They randomize a whole bunch of different parameters, and it's the sort of stuff that you might expect to see from a randomizer. Stat randomizations, um, steals and drops and treasure chests and all that stuff. That's all your standard stuff that you would expect. Then the rest of it is different categories. If you're familiar with older versions, the categories have been recently updated per request. I've uh, mixed them around a bit to hopefully be uh, segregated a little bit more logically and more intuitively. The sprites just change character sprites and whatnot, and the sprite categories will allow you to sift through the very large number of character sprites that we have if you prefer some things and disprefer others. Then we have the newly revamped tabs. The battle tab concerns a bunch of different codes that go over things that happen in combat itself. So, for instance, what bosses do, for instance, if there's RNG in combat or not. Some of these are very esoteric flags, but some of the more common ones are removing the 50% stumble chance for dances, or changing the rate at which the sword tech meter charges. The aesthetic flags and the accessibility flags, they don't randomize the actual gameplay, they only randomize how it looks and how it sounds. And as far as accessibility goes, we have a remove flashing flag. For instance, if you are photosensitive, you can cut out most, if not all, of the particularly offensive flashes. Then we have the field tab, which covers things that are not in combat, but are rather outside of combat, on the overworld, in towns, in dungeons, whatever. They change things like how monster boxes are generated. They change things like noting equipment that gets heavily randomized, things like this. And finally, we have the characters tab for the sort of main tabs here. This changes various ways about how the characters are generated, whether that be their stats or their commands, most notably. Everything about that can be found here. Experimental and game breaking tabs are mostly considering things that are potentially incomplete, potentially for bug testing more than anything else, and things that have buggy behavior, if you will, as part of their purview or part of their expectations, such as equip anything. You can equip anything as a shield or a weapon. The game tends to not like that. It's funny, it's an amusing curiosity, but it's in game breaking tabs so that players can see this as sort of the curiosity that it is and not kind of think of it as a core gameplay feature. But you can use it if you're interested, and it's an interesting experience. Now, let's say we've chosen a few flags here, such as these ones. This gives you a text string of selected flags, as it says. You can save this flag set, I can't spell, flag set, and it will save it to this window up here. So if you run this program again sometime in the future, you can choose the new flag set that you made, and you can make any such number of flag sets that are an interesting experience to you, and you can simply choose them again to run them again. And once you're done everything, the generate button is right here. It'll confirm everything. I won't actually generate a seed. We don't need to generate a seed. But if you hit yes there, then it will generate the seed, and you will have it in your output directory wherever you actually specified that to be. Now, one last thing to consider here is that any flag that has a drop down, or any flag that has a user specifiable value, such as random boost here, anything that is more complicated than just a binary on or off switch, like most of the flags are, they will do the selected flag string a little bit different. They have a colon in the middle of it, as you can see. All of these sort of more complicated flags use a key value system. And if you're using the GUI only, you will probably not care about this in the slightest. But if you are using the console, this will be relevant for that. And I will leave this up here just for a moment. And I will run the console version now, which is this one here. So here's the console version. It's a little bit less user-friendly, but it's a little bit more robust in the fact that different operating systems can use it and whatnot, and that is helpful for that reason. So I'm going to input the file name. If your ROM is stored in the same directory as the randomizer itself, you can just input the ROM name like this and hit enter, and it will do that. If it is in the different directory, you may have to paste the whole file path like that. So keep that in mind, including the file extension. Again, it should be the SMC or .sfc file, whichever one you're using. Again, this process will largely mirror the GUI process in that now it's asking for a directory. If you leave it blank, it uses the same default, which is the directory that you sourced your ROM from. And then it will ask for a seed value, and again, we won't really care about this. Then it will ask for the mode. You need to specify a mode. You will specify it. You can use the number or the name. I will just specify the normal mode with the number 1. Then it comes up with the flags. Now, notably, the GUI version only lists the basic flags, the bread and butter options themselves. It would get very quickly overwhelming and inefficient if it were to list everything, especially when the key value system comes into play. For instance, curse power can be a number of different values, any of these 255 different values. And sure, none of them are going to be very useful aside from a few of them. Like, nobody really wants curse power 189 specifically, but it is something that would have to be listed somehow. So we don't do that. We just keep the bread and butter options for this, the most frequent ones. But if you wish to use them, you do have to preserve the key value system that's used over here. You do have to have the colon in there, or else it will not work. So if you wish to use the command like so, you have to type it in like this, or perhaps like this if this is the command you want. So that's fine. It's just something you have to keep in mind. If you wish, there's also a speed dial option. It's sort of the same functionality as the flag set option within the GUI version over here. If you wish to use that, simply put in a number and a colon, and then your flag set like so. And then you can have a whole bunch of other flags in here. And if you use that, it will save this flag set to the number that you've specified at the beginning. I've specified a 0 in here. You can use 0 through 9. That way, if you are happy with that flag set and you wish to use it again, all you have to do is type in the number that it's assigned to, and it will use the exact same flag set. So that's how flag sets are done in the console version, if you wish to use that. I'm just going to throw in a couple flags here and let it run. So once you're done the flags, once you've chosen what you want, it will randomize the seed. My computer is rather fast, so it may take longer than that if your computer is not as fast as mine. So be patient, give it a couple minutes maybe, and then it will have generated your ROM, and that ROM shows up here next into the same directory as the ROM I put in there initially. All right, so that should cover everything. There's more to talk about regarding customization of your randomizer, you can there's this custom folder with a lot of different things that you can change and alter, and I will be saving that for another video. For now, that's all there is that I can think of to include with this tutorial. If there's anything I missed or if there's anything you want clarified, there's a comment section down below. Feel free to use it. I do get informed when comments are posted in there, so I will respond to them as I stated earlier. But for now, that will be all. If you're interested in editing and customizing various different things in your randomizer, I will be putting out a follow-up video to that shortly. So thank you and have fun.